So, bought a new module, the Doppler A1772, and it looks really boring, but what it does is something that suddenly opens up a whole new world within modular, and it's something I'm going to be using on all my patches now. What it does is allow you to connect one of these, which is a basic expression pedal. I think this one cost me something like £12.50. I'll link it down below in case anyone's interested, as well as the Doppler module, into your Eurorack setup. The reason I bought this was I watched this amazing clip where Floating Points, one of the best producers, is talking about his live setup using his Buchla system, and he creates this network of control all under his foot, which frees up your hands to do whatever else you need to be doing when you're either playing live or recording the modular. So I've done a similar thing in the patch we're going to jump into. At the heart of this patch, there's just a very simple beat. So I've got the Buchla Oscillator. I'm loving using this for sort of kick drums at the moment. It's just being pinged by maths and going into the LXD and the wasp filters to sort of give it a bit more crunch and give it the dynamics of the kick. So here's what that sounds like. Next up, there's a similar to Oscillator doing this sort of rimshotty sound. You know, it's quite a distorted, wave-folded sound with lots of harmonics, but very quick decay time and the attack at the point where it's adding a bit of noise in. Now, that sort of works in tandem with what Fracture is doing, which is a burst of claps at the same time as the main snare lands, and then just individual claps throughout the rest of the pattern. So here's Fracture, and then listen to that mixed in with the rimshot sound from similar to Oscillator. And then here I'll add the kick in as well. So that was sort of the heart of the beat. Next thing I did was just add a 909 hi-hat from the Squid Sample. And then there's two layers of the Squid Sample, both doing sort of glitched up Foley stuff just to add a bit of texture. So there's the first one of those, and it's always the same rhythm, but the section of this like Foley sample that it's playing is different with every cut. And then here's the second one. Now those don't sound like much on their own, but they really add something to the full beat. Here's what that sounds like. And then the next thing that's going on is I then took that whole beat, sent it back out of the Expert Sleepers ES9 as a mix and sampled that into the Squid Sample and then hit reverse on it. So there's another layer underneath, which is the whole beat reversed. And here's what it sounds like mixed in with the rest of the beat. It's all pretty uncomplicated at this point. And this is where this incredible idea that I learned from watching a Floating Points video where he's talking about his live set and using his Buchla system and foot pedal. And what he does is he creates this network of CV control throughout the modular of lots of things that will all be affected and changed with the foot pedal down. So I've got the new A1772 down here, which is plugged into an expression pedal, and then from that I'm sending CV all over the modular. So first I'll just play you what it sounds like when I press the foot pedal down. So here's the beat playing, and listen when I press the foot pedal down. And then take that back off. So it's a really amazing way to create sort of dynamic range, and you can be really extreme with it. Or you can be quite subtle with it. Or, you know, just use it to add a few little bits of wonkiness to the beat. So what's going on here? So when I press the foot pedal down, it sort of adds an increasingly higher CV voltage that comes out of here. And that's going to a variety of different places throughout the modular. So the first one of those is the pitch of the kick drum. So the kick drum, when I press down the pedal, it slightly goes up in pitch. But that's not the only thing that happens. When I press down the pedal, the attack of the kick drum also becomes slower, and the release of the kick drum becomes faster. So the envelope change, and you get this sort of reversing effect whilst the pitch goes up. Let's listen to that on its own. The next thing it's affecting is the fracture. So let's listen to fracture. And here's what happens when I press the pedal down. So the frequency of the fracture is being increased, and then it's also going into the surface. So the sound you're hearing changes as the pedal goes down. Next up is the hi-hat. So you can hear the hi-hat, that's just being pitched up, but also bit crushed as the pedal is pushed down. The next thing is these glitched up sort of Foley sounds. So what's happening with them is they're just being bit crushed, so they're getting more and more degraded and distorted as the pedal's pushed down. And that's just by decreasing the bit depth using one of these CV ins on the Squid Salonpool. So here's that. You know, so that's a little bit more subtle than some of the other things. The next thing, which is actually quite a cool one, is this reversed version of the beat that's playing on one level on the Squid Salon. When I push the pedal down, the loop length is actually getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So instead of playing like a full 2 bars of the loop reversed, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it's just sort of repeating one beat, and then even less, just a fragment of the sample. Let's have a listen to that. Now that's all quite cool, you know, and you can definitely have a lot of fun with just this. But I really wanted to take this to the next level, and this is another thing that Floating Points does in his video, so definitely check that out. I'll link it below if you're interested, as well as a video where I sort of go into a bit more detail about how I'd make a beat like this. The whole of this beat is being sent out as just a mono version back out of the ES9 into Warps, and I've got the Warps Parasites firmware, which means I can use it as a delay. And then as I push the pedal down, it speeds up the length of the loop, and it also moves the position of the playhead in the loop, which creates this like really crazy sort of speeding up effect. So let's listen to that mixed in with the rest of the beat, and I'll show you what happens when I press the pedal down with that mixed in. Beat playing. So you can hear the delay basically getting faster and faster. Why is it making such a difference to have this on a foot pedal? And the simple answer is because I've got my hands free instead of just being tied to trying to do 2 of these things with only 2 of my hands, and that's all I can do. Here I'm changing about 10 different things in the system at once, and I've still got 2 hands free to change anything else. So I could, you know, increase the reverb on fracture. Or I've got my hands free to, you know, play another instrument, so I could push the pedal down and then be ready to play something when it comes off. And I can be playing this live while still affecting the modular. soon.